The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
Welcome to the Brandon Peters Show and the start of year number 4. That's crazy. So here we go. Returning to the show with me today from Courage to Rise, it is Jennifer Wreyford.
Excited to be here, Brandon. Excited to kick off the year.
Yes, and star of the summer of 93 at 30 and summer of 82 at 40. Yes.
Yes.
You know who she is. Yes. All right. Before we get into this, I got an announcement at the top, and you probably saw on social media maybe last week, but I will be a guest at Doctoberfest 2023. This is a Doctor Who, surprise Brandon and Doctor Who. It's a festival convention type thing. It's in Plainfield, Indiana. Other guests include Sophie Aldred, who played Ace in the 1987 to 89 iteration of Doctor Who, starring Sylvester McCoy, one of the most popular companions of all time. So I'm very excited to be there with her, and apparently I'm going to get to chat with her for a little bit and stuff. So that's cool. And also Russell McGee, who's been a guest on this show before. He does Big Finish audio engineering and an author, and there's plenty of stuff. Like there's a Lego building competition, there's a lookalike contest, there's a action figure building competition, all sorts of stuff, and a lot of fun. And the cool thing about Oktoberfest is what they tell me is that all the vendors there, everything's got to be handmade, can't be some corporate blah 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 blah, and it's got to be Doctor Who themed. So it's only Doctor Who stuff, only people who with their bare hands have made their merchandise or collections or whatever it is. So I will be there. I'll be covering things, talking to people. You can stop me and see me. I'll probably be running around as I'm told. Being stationary isn't friendly to the people I'd want to talk to and things, so I've got to be on the move. And we'd also like to make a package that showcases Oktoberfest for future goers. So they're putting me as a face of that. Scary, but we'll get into that. So I'm very excited that finally has been talking about it for a few months with the people, and we've got it hammered out. And I'm very excited and happy to be a guest there. So that's another thing of the running. It's pretty fun. So back to this here episode with Jennifer, and no movie to talk about. What's going on? No movie stings. What is this? No music. No. So when I started the Brandon Peters Show podcast, one of my ideas is if I get through a year, if I do, I would. But when I get through a year, the start then following year, I would want one of my guests to come on and talk to me about maybe the previous year, my ideas, what's going on. And I did that in the first one. After the first year, we had Greg McGoon. He came on. We talked about that. And then last year, I was going to do it, and I got COVID. So didn't feel like doing it. So I just kind of axed it out because I had COVID all of September, and I didn't get my voice back till November. Cough back. It was bad. Have you had COVID, Jennifer?
I have not. Knock on wood.
Lucky you. I had listeners that were like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "I have COVID." Because I was doing recording stuff still with COVID. I am a warrior. I was just trying to get some stuff. I did a couple old space shows, and I was like, hello. I thought I was sounding okay, but apparently not. I did have to. What? Yeah. Right. There was a podcast I was in the middle of guesting on. I had to back out because I just it wasn't gonna work. I was like, I am so sorry, but luckily I wasn't the only person on it, and I was there 10 minutes, and they could easily edit me out. So that was the idea. So going into year 4, this is an interesting one. I'll get into that in a sec, which I have already said I'd get into that in a sec or something, but I want to do something more open, more a bit revealing about myself and what it's like to do this and what I've been through and what I go through constantly with things and thoughts on this, that, and many things, and my life, my passion here with this, and the highs, the lows. Been a very good year, continually challenging and putting this show out as it started during the pandemic, where I was able to do a lot more because I was at home and da-da-da, and now we are like living life again. My kids get older, they do things, like I have things I gotta be at, like life crept up on the Brandon Peters show, and it's not able to be as gigantic as it used to be. Like I used to do videos. I love doing the videos, but there's no time for that anymore. And then like multiple things a week, stuff we'll talk about. But like Jennifer, this was an idea that I called podcaster therapy, which I thought about for like a good year or two. And then when we recorded for summer of 93 at 30, when we got on, you mentioned like Brandon would understand this grind we talk about with stuff. Because you go through similar stuff, I'm sure. A dual life of sorts that people don't know about. There are people, there are real people, they're like me, they work. And I was like, it clicked. I'm like, yes, I do need to do this with Jennifer, and I need to do this now. Once summer of 93 at 30 is finished, once we're ready to go, that's what I needed to do. So I brought you here to do it, and that's why we're here today.
And I'm excited to be here to do it. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love talking about this. I don't think it gets talked about nearly enough.
Yeah, it's stuff. So like, yeah. Where do you want to start with this? Do you have any idea, a starting point?
So I think that, in any time I'm looking back at the year that passed, it's, what is most present. And, in retrospect, anytime I'm reflecting on something like that, it's like, what did I learn from it? What did I take away from it? Knowing what I now know, what am I doing differently? Like really just sort of reflecting on all these things. And also because, you're at a point where you're sort of at one of those pivotal moments, right? And I always say that, and I get the like Ross and Friends, pivot. But that it, sometimes there are things and ways that our life comes together that brings us to a point of some shit's going to change or some shit's got to change. Mm-hmm. Right. So right. What was that for you?
Well, for me, like I can't do as much. Like I can't, I try to do too much. And they're like taking breaks. Like I feel like with me, like I feel like I'm a nobody. I don't know what other people think. I don't care. But in my mind, I'm always this like schmuck. I always tell people that too. Like, oh yeah, I'm like, it's weird to me because I always think I'm like, who would give a shit what I'm doing? Like that's always how I'm gonna think. And I'm not trying to fish for compliments with that. I'm just like, I wouldn't pay for me. So I've learned that I need to be okay with my show going off the air, like for a second. I need to be calmer with things. I can't, like, I want to do so much. There's so much in this brain that's constantly like, and that still hasn't shown up on this show. But I need to calm down. And I've tried to like do life at my own speed if I can, but I'm still get quite busy. We're actually in the middle of where I'm like busiest. These horror months of September and October. There's podcasting, so I do my show, and then Out Now with Aaron and Abe, I joined the horror specials, which is usually 5 episodes every month. One's a commentary. That's easy. I just need to stay up at night and watch a movie with the guys. That's all we do. But like, there's a lot of research, and the thing is, I love that program. I would prefer if for October, which is weird, I would shut my show down for the month to do those specials. That's how much those mean to me. But I like to keep something for my show going in the meantime. But this year we're doing global horror, and I've got to watch 20 different movies from 4 different countries to prep. And those aren't ones because they're not in my native language, and I don't speak much outside of some crappy Spanish and awful French. I gotta watch. I can't just background things and catch up. But it's a lot of research, and I like to go deeper than just, I watched it. This is what I thought. because we're doing expert stuff there. Like it's really some of the best conversations I've had in podcasting have been over those horror specials. So they really hold a special place to me. So that's there. Trying to prep for my end of the year shows, and then I've got Oktoberfest. Like it's really busy, but I get really worked up. But at the end of the day, I feel glad I went through this time every year. Also, being a Blu-ray and 4K reviewer, they ramp up the titles this time of year. So that happens too. So
it's like your tax season.
Yeah, I guess maybe. But like with the Blu-rays and stuff, like there's going to be, I can't talk now, but there's going to be some changes with my Blu-ray stuff because it's been years coming and it's going to come. But I'm starting to do, instead of writing, it's kind of easier for me to film videos with those now. So I may be doing a lot more of that to get them in, because I don't think people understand. Like I get them free. The studio send them to me, or a marketing firm sends them to me, and like I owe them my work for sending it free. Which, granted, if you take the time and effort, they're getting a hell of a deal, because they're sending me like a $20 to $30 item, and I'm probably putting in making like $2 an hour with what I'm fucking doing. But I like it, and it saves me. It saves me the money. It saves my wife the grief of like, why are you spending so much on those? And I owe them something at least around. I prefer before the release date if possible, because it's meant as a part of the marketing to sell. Like, is this good? Should I get it before it comes out? Whatever, or around the release date. So that's some pressure. I don't think people realize, because I see a lot of people. There's the Blu-ray.com forums fucking hate me. They can be a bunch of chodes, but like. They're like, oh, you just hoarding free ones, just doing it for free. I'm like, there's a lot of work that goes, even if you think I'm a shitty reviewer, there's a lot of work going into this. It's not easy. And if it was, why don't you make your own blog? Why don't you get, like, how are you not getting the connections to get these things? You know, I did Blu-ray QC for DVD QC for like 4 years down in Los Angeles. And I've been writing for Weiss of Blue now for 10 years. So, you know, why aren't you doing that? If you're so into it, why aren't you doing it?
Right.
But yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. Like I put a insane amount of work, time and effort into things that I don't think people ever realize. That while also I'm not special. I work a job 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I have a job. I do people
and a family.
And a family. I have a wife, kids. I have a dog, a cat, like. And I guess I can count 2 guinea pigs. We have 2 guinea pigs too, which I didn't ask for. Yeah, like I work 4 years a week, and then I do this on top of it, which there's a lot of people I don't see anymore. They think that the podcast is like all I do. They think that's like someone's actually paying me a salary, a livable salary for it, and that is not the case. I work too, and they're like, "Oh, what? That's a lot of effort." I'm like, "Yeah, because I love it." Like, people don't. Do they not have a thing like that they strive to do to put the work? Like, sure, I'd love someone to pay me for it, but like, and all that stuff. But I don't think it's out there a lot of the time. Like, luck of the draw out there, sure, but it's something like for like passion doing it like that. But like people like, "Oh, that's a lot of effort." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because." I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's so weird to see the look on people's face, almost like a look of horror. Like, you do that in addition to that? Like,
I think it's horror, and it's. I think people are oftentimes very impressed, and it can also feel very confronting for people, which is, by the way, their shit, not yours, because it's, you know, it is. You have to have the passion for it, right? We can do anything, but when you have the passion for something like that, because it energizes you, right? So it helps to give you energy. And so it's not like you're just going, you know, you're schlepping from like this job to that job. And it's like, I mean, again, you can do anything if you had to feed yourself and your family, whatever. But this is when you're passionate about something and you really love it and enjoy it, you'll find the time for it. And, you know, it's kind of, like people, when I work with a lot of people who are trying to either build a business or start a creative endeavor, or they want to do something like this, right? And they look at people out there who are successful in whatever way we define success, right? And maybe they are making a living off it now, or regardless, and they go, well, they make it look so easy, but you don't see everything that was behind the scenes for years. Overnight success is not overnight success.
No.
Listen, I've been plugging away at this and doing this and trying it all the wrong ways, right? Some of us have to do it all the wrong ways before we figure out the right ways. Maybe that's me anyway. And then, all of a sudden overnight, you something takes off for you. And people have this perception that it somehow came easily, but it didn't. It was the process of you kept going and didn't give up because you just were passionate about it and loved what you did.
Yeah.
And it's, to your point, there's other things that get woven in there too about how to do it and how we have a perception sometimes of how we need to do it versus like, well, you were given the example of like October and doing those interviews. It's like, what my question to you then would be, how can we take what you're doing there and repurpose into your podcast, right? So
right.
These are the things. This is how my brain works with stuff like that. Because I'm like, how can I take the things that I want to do and streamline them together? Because I think we can all get in these like fixed buckets of it has to look this way and it has to look a certain way. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to now is like some things have to shift.
And this is why I called it the Brandon Peters Show, because if it changes, I'm still here. So
this is why I run my own business, because I get to make decisions.
Yeah. Well, if I called it something like, something specific, you're painted in a corner. So if I just called it myself, it could be today's episode. That's exactly what it is. And why I like that idea of not having myself put in a corner with things like that. But so it's it's hard to do. And I'll tell you one thing that you want to know what really you can make me sour really fast.
I want to know what burns your biscuits.
Burns my biscuits. Yeah. So I've noticed this'll get me so mad if anybody, they ever call what I'm doing here a hobby. That fucking it's like you're dead to me. Like you have I don't know what, and I just don't like that word with what because like to me a hobby is like my my Doctor Who figurines.
Yeah.
Buying like there's no effort to that. I just I have a collection of things like there's no work involved in that or whatever. It's different stuff and like it's casual to do. And you're calling
crochet is a hobby. Crochet is a hobby.
Okay. Sorry, crochet players. If you get player, crocheters.
I'm gonna get that set all pissed off. And more of like the nuance of I think there's the passion project. I don't know how you feel about that term, but I see
passion
it as
project is fine. Yeah,
a passion project is something that at some point very likely could be monetized. It's something that you're pouring your heart and soul into because it matters to you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It deeply matters to you.
Yeah, passion project is fine. I have no problem. Like some of my favorite films were made as passion projects. Like that's the blank check you give a director after he makes billions of dollars on a movie or makes a lot of that's what they do. But like I hear that and I'm like I'm like, and some people know it's like if you want to take me down pegs, you're gonna call it a hobby. Like, yeah, sure. Like that's all. Like, okay. So, don't call it that. Like ever. Like my wife has accidentally, and she's like, oh. It's not. Don't
absolutely out of the room. Don't make any sudden moves.
Yep. No, don't call it that. It annoys me because I feel like you're lessening what I'm doing. That's what I feel. Sorry, hobbyist. Sorry, Hobby Lobby, but that's just how I feel about that word with everything I put in. Here's this thing I brought up twice and said get to later. Interesting with going into year 4. with my old show, which was called Cult Cinema Cavalcade, this was like, that show went for like 5 years, but this is the point where I was done with that. Like, I wanted to cash out. I was through with it, but it was somewhere, between like year 3 to year 4. Like I was done, and it still kept going. I had a goal of like 5 years with it anyway, and I stuck it out. But I think I probably should have got out of it earlier. I don't know. And did this, but who knows? Maybe I needed the pandemic to both stop that one and start the new one. I don't know. But that goal barely happened to 5, and there was a whole year before that show started where we were planning it. So while it didn't debut till 2015, we were talking about all throughout 2014 and 2015, early 2015. So it was longer than a 5-year endeavor for me. But like there was once with it where I was like, I told him, I'm like, I'm ending it tonight. I asked my co-host of that to go to a dinner, and I said, we need to talk about something important. You and I just be prepared. Brought his fucking wife with him, who's now ex-wife. But, and I'm like, I can't, this is not cool. This is like, I said you, and I chickened out. I didn't bring it up. And I wish I would have, cause yeah, that was a thing where I was probably, it was sort of like if I'm going to do all the work and everything anyway, I should be just doing my own show. But at the time, I think my idea was to axe that person and get another person, but I don't know. But it's kind of weird that I'm here now with that, but here I'm not ready to stop. Mm-hmm. And I don't see it. There's times where I'm like, my brain gets fried and I'm like, I should retire. I just hang this all up. But I'm always like, every time I hit a point, I get like rejuvenated, elated, keep going. And I'm in a really good, really happy, good spot now. I just need to have time to do certain things, and I'm good. But yeah, so this is a weird spot. So I'm remembering being in that show, being like, well, this is where you were wanting to sack the old show, but no.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a different sort of. I think that it's also learning to understand when you're really done with something and when something is just evolving a little bit, right? Like, and I think that's the difference of it's, things grow and evolve and shift. And I also think that sometimes people don't talk about, even when it's something that you're passionate about and you love doing, mm-hmm. and you're committed to doing, you still have times or seasons or moments when it's like things will get fuzzy or things will get dark and things, mm-hmm. And that's a moment of, I think most people I know who've ever been in entrepreneurial endeavors of any kind, even highly successful ones, have moments where they go, what the fuck am I even doing?
Yeah.
It's a very natural thing. And sometimes you can go through, like I call it the void, right? I thought I had so much clarity and I was doing this, and now like, I still want to do this, but what does this look like? And it's sort of like this mini dark night of the soul with whatever it is you're working on and coming out of it and recreating it. But to your point, I think the telling sign is that it's still energizing, right? Side. It's like I just went through a season like that myself. And I knew while I was going through it, I was like, I'm not going to be dramatic about it because now I know what this is. Like in younger years, mm-hmm. I would have been like, oh God, I didn't know. I was like, oh, just, okay, this is where we are. And I'll come out on the other side of it. And you get a whole new burst of energy and ideas and creativity and whatever. And you also figure out what needs to fall away and what doesn't fit anymore in the way that it was.
Yeah. It's weird because like you said that like your younger self and everything, I mean, like this drive, this push and fire I've had, like didn't really come out in Los Angeles when I lived there and I was trying to be in the entertainment industry and I was working, I was doing that. Like there was some. I mean, I got out there. That takes a lot. There's stuff, but there's a lot I learned about myself while I was there. And it didn't happen right when I moved home. It didn't happen until like after I had my first kid that these wheels started turning. I'm like, why when I don't know why when that stuff happened that like things get more and more and more and more and more and more. Because I remember like it started with Scott Mendelson when he called and needed me to write for his site. And I'm like, yeah, why not? You know, maybe it's because I was home a lot. And I was like, yeah, I should be doing that anyway. It was something I always wanted to do, and then that led to more writing, to writing on my own, to writing for Why So Blue, to podcast, to doing my own podcast, to do it like, and then doing convention. Like it has just grown. Like it's big. And I felt like too with my old show too, there's a lot of holding back that I think when I did the Brandon Peters show just unleashed because it had been held back for a few years just because I was more ambitious than a 50-50 partnership was letting me kind of be at the time. Like I was, and there's a lot of stuff I just wanted to do without anyone being like, I don't know, that would take work or effort. So that's kind of like where the show kind of exploded from. But dirty little secret, when I started the show, I thought, well, if I'm going to be new and I want to have newer people and like guests, I want it to look like it's been around for a while. So if I do like 4 to 5 segments a week, that's going to stack up the episodes real fast. And it's going to look like I've had a lot. So that's kind of why it went so big at the beginning. But also, it was just a lot of ideas I wanted to explore, and I wanted to have a variety show of something to listen to throughout the week. But also part of that was like, well, if I reach out to some publicist, somebody, I want them to look back and be like, oh, he just started.
Yeah.
So if I sneakily, like by November when I started the show, I looked like I'd been around at least a year because of that. So, yeah, but that's kind of, like, I don't know where, like, my younger self, like, tell him, like, oh, yeah, you're going to not only have 2 children, married and a job, but you're going to be working like you never worked before. So
but that's like, I don't know. I see that. I studied a lot about sort of like how men grow and develop and come into their own. And honestly, sometimes it's like in that season in I don't know when you had your kids, but it's like that season when you're in their 30s and you start to have a family where then it's like the impulse that's not necessarily a conscious one is like building your empire, whatever it is, right? Like you get this sort of newfound energy for these things that maybe wasn't there. And so that's like, as you were talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, no, he's like going through this phase. That's exactly what happened. And then everything starts to grow and build.
Or maybe something finally clicked where I felt like I could do something with what I had always been around and denied and stuff. Like, cause like when we were out when we lived in Los Angeles, like my friend Scott was the odd one out. Cause he was like, you want to be the film writer critic guy? Get the fuck out of here. Like we're all actors and writers and want to be directors. Like, oh, well, he's a camera guy. He's the edgy one, you know, like he's cool. Oh, we got our musician friends and you're writing about it. Oh, get out of here. And now like a lot of them that I know have gone into more commentary positions or endeavors. Like, and my friend John Roca, he came on here. He's like, you know, Scott had it fucking right to begin with. We just were all too proud. So yeah, it's kind of funny, but yeah. But yeah, like it's just crazy the explosion of that I'm able to do it. Like I'm 41 years old, and 30-year-old me wasn't doing this. 20s me wasn't even at this. So, like,
I think that's also, there's still a misperception. I see, people in their 20s, or I talk to clients in their 20s that have all this pressure on them about what they're doing in their life, and I'm like, I'm going to be 44 in 2 weeks, and my life is just starting in the very best way. Like, it's you get to have these new evolutions and seasons, and age is just a fucking number. And I think there's not everybody, because I also say getting older, age is no indication of anything other than you haven't died yet. It's not an indication you've actually learned anything, but hopefully the older you get, the more wisdom you have. and the more you can actually create and do things from a much more grounded place. And it's just, I don't know, I'm in the best season of my life, and and I'm not quite even mid-40s yet, and I think it's just going to get better.
Right.
But,
yeah. I'm a person. I'm never like, oh, I wish I was back. And like everybody, like, no. Like I had a friend tell me like, oh, I miss the college days. And I'm like, no, I was fucking broke and drunk and living in shitholes. And
my liver just twitched.
yeah. I'm just like, no, it wasn't.
I mean, they were fun, right?
We got to hang out every day, but we had.
And I really would not, there's not necessarily a season of my life I would go back to, because I'm actually very happy with where I am and who I am. And the only reason I would go back is if I could get back knowing what I know now and probably invest in certain stocks and things. But
right. For money. Yeah. And I tell you what, one of my most, she's been on the show twice. She hasn't been on it. Like I tried to get her for summer of 82 and 93. She declined politely. Just has stuff going on, and I'm glad because that means she's working. But Chelsea Christer, who's a director, I met through here. I reviewed her movie, and then I asked her publicist if she could come on, talk to her a bit, and she directed this movie called Bleeding Audio, which is about a band called The Matches, which was this kind of like emo punk band from the early 2000s that got really close to fame but could never get over the hump to get like a big hit or something to stick around. And then they just kind of like, they had a good like 8 years and faded. And and her and I, when we were talking about music artists and musicians, is like there's no like guidance for like fallback on what happens after, because just because your band didn't make it doesn't mean you can't find success in other areas and things like that. And she says we don't really properly, maybe as a species or a country, like we don't properly measure success. We don't. We put a lot of monetary value on success. We put a lot of fame points on success, but that band was ideally successful. They got to tour the globe. They got to open for big bands. They had music videos. They had albums. They worked with, I think, Nick Hexum produced one of their albums, and Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, he did. Like, that's awesome. Who gets to, like, talk about that? And then, like, these other band members, one of them produces, one of them's like a graphic designer now, and like all this stuff, but they don't teach like what after, what can you do after. But even though it's a memory, it's short-lived, it was a little window, that's still like a lot and more than most people had in your failure than what, I mean, they ain't come out rich. They didn't, and then at the end, they ended up getting back together and they played dates once in a while. They're like packed houses that, they used to. But like, and I have always, it's weird to me, and that stuck with me a lot because I've always, success to me is being able to do this and being able, having to reach one person doing it that likes what I'm doing, that wants to communicate or wants to like talk or says, hey, that was a good thing, like doing it. Like, I know my wife would love if I just did this and made all the monies, but to me, like the dollar amount, the fame part that's not to me everything, because I love doing this. And I don't think a lot of people, I think they want to do this, but they don't love doing it. They see like, oh, someone will know who I am. Mm-hmm. And while I like that about what comes with me, like that's not everything. That's not all of it. Like, it's weird because I see colleagues, people I know, people I like, people stuff went on their social medias like X. Remember when we recorded last time, Jennifer? It was called Twitter, and then now it's called X. I like to point that out. Short time ago, because all my summer episodes said Twitter and it had changed all that. So where I'm going, so like I work my ass off here. I put in countless hours. My edit, like I don't edit as meticulously as I used to. Sorry, folks, I just don't have the time. But it used to be, I used to spend for every 10 minutes of an episode, I probably spent an hour editing. That's what I would do. And then you think about, I'm also writing reviews for Why So Blue. I'm also filming those shorts. I'm also doing other episodes of the show. I'm sharing stuff on social media. That's a fucking, I hate that. But I see them online. I see comments that just infuriate me. Like, I wish someone would pay me to write an article about fill in the blank. Why? Go fucking write it. Go put it on your blog. Like, it drives me nuts. I got a free blog. It was called Naptown Nerd. It was naptownnerd.blogspot.com. That's not fancy, but you know where it's at. And if you type it in, it comes up. And I could write there. I could put pictures there. Nobody stopped me. I wrote what I wanted. What I get out of it, it looked good when I went to Why So Blue, where you know how much money I make there? $0. I do get free Blu-rays. That's nice incentive. But I liked writing, and I was writing these articles because I wanted to, because I liked it, because if I have an idea, I write it. What's stopping? Why does someone have to pay you to write that? Like, it drives me fucking up the wall.
Well, and there's so much, so many things to say. So, I mean, first of all, people have, and this is some of the work that I do with people, only the people who want to break the blocks. I don't go, all due respect, go pay a therapist to listen to you whine, come to me when you're ready to change.
Right.
But it's the people getting these very fixed ideas. And the truth is, in this day and age, we have never had so much free and easy access to create for the sake of creating. And I think, and I see a lot in the, in the entrepreneurial world of like, there's so much pressure that we can put on ourselves that, I have to create it and monetize it and I have to do this. And it just like, to me, it chokes the life out of it. And really, if you want to start a blog, if you want to do it because you want to, right? And when I finally started my blog years ago, it was, if it helps one person, to me, that's a win. And I have fun doing it. Right. And, I must have been, I couldn't figure out where this thought came from last night, but now it all connects. And my brain is always thinking about things. Right. And I was laying in bed last night thinking about better to burn out than to fade away. Right. that quote. And I was thinking to exactly what you're just talking about. Why is it that we don't talk about it's a season and it was something cool you did. Yeah. Right. And you did, and we will get locked into, as humans, we like to make meaning of things and we like to tell stories. And then there's a whole science as to then how we get down the fucking rabbit hole with our brains and stay there. But why is it not just, this was some cool shit I did and it was cool and we tried it, right? And we had fun doing it and we learned some cool things. And now we've moved on to this other thing, as opposed to sometimes people camp out here. It's like the analogy that comes to me is like the, sort of stereotypical football cheerleader, they peaked in high school. Yeah. Like there's so much more to life. I was talking to my bonus kid about this the other day because I was telling him how I used to ride a motorcycle and I tried it for a while and turns out I didn't want to take the risk to do it anymore. And so I didn't, but now it's a cool fucking story I have about this like cool thing they did. Doesn't mean anything. And I think it's a whole shift that we need to make as a society around this whole definition of success. And that's what a lot of the work that I do. It's like, people kind of go into these things with these unconscious ideas of like, success means I have to keep getting promoted and I have to make this much money and I have to do this and I have to do that. Well, you're fucking miserable. So is that success? Yeah. No, not in my book. Right. And also success doesn't have to be, you can have that kind of success and make money doing it. It's not, you can only be happy if that's a whole other ball of wax. I could go down so many rabbit holes. You got to keep me centered here, Brandon, or I'll go off. But it really is like, and I think that's the thing of that. To me, if you think about it, you do the rocking chair test, right? When I look back on my life, I want to say I did some really cool shit and hopefully I helped some people along the way and I had a lot of fun doing it. That to me is success. Yeah. So, it's shifting that narrative. And also, I think just normalizing the fact that own what you do, like be proud of what you do and whatever you're doing and fuck what anybody else thinks. Right.
And I know there's the term like fake it like you made it, but like, I don't think so. If you feel you made it, then there's no faking. Like,
exactly.
Sell yourself. Be high on, like, that's tends what I do. Like, I know my numbers and stuff like that. And I've seen like my social media, like I'm really weird. Like, we made a joke over summer '93 at 30 with Scott, Aaron, and I about smash the like and subscribe button. But if there's something you've never heard me talk about on my show, is to tell you to subscribe or like my show, because I want you to do it on your own.
Yeah.
I don't. If you like me, cool. I want genuine likes. I want genuine, like, when I look like at my YouTube views and stuff, like, I see people with a lot more subscribers than me, like a lot more, thousands, whatever. I have like 500 and some, but I have way more views on my videos than those people. They get like a view, 2 views. Like, what's that? Like, what do you like?
Well, and I've always been of the mind that, well, the other thing is you have a lot of people that are lurkers. There was about 95% lurkers,
right.
Watching and consuming, and not. It doesn't matter how many times you tell them to like and subscribe; they're not going to do it. Like, they're still. It's the concept of having raving fans. I would rather have 100 raving fans than 100,000 like random people following me who are not out of my content.
That forgot they followed you, don't even know what you are. Yeah. Right. And I go always, I've talked about this before, and I keep bringing up Scott, but fucking A. Scott, like, he didn't have like the biggest numbers of his blog, but he had the one right person reading it, and that's what landed him when he went to Forbes. From Forbes, now he's at the Wrap, but one person got him there at Forbes.
Yes.
And
when people will write for the masses or on social media, right? It's like, oh, well, I have to get by this, by that. And it's like, well, if you would just like express what you want to express and don't give I don't even look at analytics. I don't care because it's the whole, don't get me started on the algorithm.
Nope.
But you write and express the way that you want to write and express it. And it's going to resonate with the right people. And that's so much more authentic than trying to sound like anybody else. Because to your point, that's a great example, right? He's doing this, and it's quality over quantity. And because he was showing up writing, presumably writing what he wanted to write, it resonated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and it's fucking exhausting trying to write for the people in the back cheap seats that,
Yeah. No, I want my thing. I've been like, while there will be some times where I feel like I could interestingly tie something into something modern, like you literally do my show to do what I'm interested in with my show. Like, I don't need to, there's so many avenues I don't need to go down, but if there's an interesting angle on something that might be more popular than and it fits me, I might take it. I might do it. I think what I have planned for December on this show is going to fit that, but I've got the good reason why, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. No, listeners, I'm not going to spill the beans on it yet. So, but it's just weird. And like with things like my success with like PopCon, that's been not from them like listening to my show and stuff like. Well, it's come from that, but like it's a relationship built and showing what I can do, being proactive, and then being handed keys to things, and then with the Oktoberfest coming here, the Here Now Festival, there's a possibility of something else in the works for next year, but with something else. So fingers crossed that pans out. But like, these things aren't based on like, well, let's see his numbers. Like, oh, that guy's doing good stuff. I like that. Not to toot my horn, because like I said, I'm a schmuck. I'm like, okay, you want me, fine. And I worry about things when I do. And like, am I doing shitty? Like, I don't know. It felt, both the PopCons felt really good about what I did this year. Just like feedback came through. It's nice because a lot of times people don't give you feedback. You just have to go on, well, was I all right? Was that fine? But I did feel really bad at PopCon Louisville, though. All the Sunday people, I think a couple Saturdays, something happened with the SD card that recorded the live podcast, and I either lost it or someone stole it while I was closing down, and I was not able to give them recordings, and I felt amateur and awful. And that was my first time so this year is the first time I've been part of the PopCon crew. Like, I've always been there, but I've always been like, oh, he's Brandon, he gets away with things. Like, he does like he'll do stuff with podcasts in the podcast stage, but this is the year like this is yours now. This is all you. And it's been a grind with that. Like I don't think people understand how many emails I have to get. Still getting PopCon ended weeks ago from people. But I love it though. I enjoy that. I enjoy owning it, trying to improve it, doing things and making, people know about it. I mean, people visual, because it used to be just this fucking table in a fucking atrium that I was like, what's going on there? I don't know. People are talking in a mic, and I wanted to showcase it, and it's been getting bigger and better the last few years, just because, putting care into it. But like, yeah, so those things just, I don't know. Success to me is different. Like I feel successful having got to that and doing things rather than just like, oh, I'm making blah, blah, blah off this ad. And then, like, I don't have sponsors. I've been offered weird sponsors that don't fit. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. There's like monetize. You got to monetize what you're doing. You got no. I mean, if it comes, someone can do it, but like,
well, and I think there's a balance there, and I walk that too, because I also will err on the side of I won't do something like that if I think it's even remotely, and it's possible I've missed out on opportunities, but I'd rather miss out on things and feel like I'm in integrity with myself. And it's also, what I've seen is I have also had to shift my mindset more to how do I monetize in ways that feel really good for me and that don't feel like and this is just my own little pet peeves, but like, don't interrupt your fucking podcast with your stupid fucking ad. I'm not listening for your ad. Like it's just personal preference.
Right.
Unless it's
30. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to skip through it and I'm going to be annoyed that you sold out, but
right. How much is that ad really paying you? Because I've been offered numbers and I'm like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or we'll send you free things that you don't want.
I've been in sales for over 20 years and I have such radar for bad sales and bad marketing.
Yeah. Well, every time when I'm on Instagram and I have like, you have hidden messages. I'm like, oh, who wants to sponsor the show, or who's trying to offer me some spam ad or something? That's every time. Yeah. And I also get every frequently, hey, you got a nice logo, but we can make a better one. I'm like, really? The logo that people have constantly, if there's one nice thing I've been told about this show is my logo. Yeah.
My personal one, and again, I just see it coming from a mile away, and to me, it just feels so gross because there are business coaches out there that are teaching other business coaches how to approach, and so they start by following, and then they'll comment on a few of my posts, and then they'll slide into my DMs, and then I slide over and block their ass.
Yep, that's what I do. You'll see in friendship. Oh,
gross. Because I check their profile and I'm like, oh, you're a business coach. Blocked. If I want your help, I will find you.
It's like when the recruiter friends you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The most boring social media platform.
At least the recruiters are straightforward. Although I don't like the ones who have the. I mean, come on, people, do better.
Say, hey, would you like to grab a coffee sometime? Yeah, it's on me.
Read my profile. Like I have a no tolerance for bad sales.
Here's a good one. I get offers. So I got called by somebody because on the Brandon Peters, I list the Brandon Peters show on, because I do a lot for this fucking show. I don't care if it's my own. It's on my LinkedIn. It says marketing director because that's what I fucking do. Oh, I got a call about giving a seminar, and I'm like, do you know who I am? Like you don't want me. I told him you don't want me. Like, no, I'm not what you other. Okay. And then I also get, because I put host, I get suggested career opportunities at Bob Evans, Outback Steakhouse. I'm like, that's not what I'm,
not the right type of host.
Not that kind of host. But unfortunately not hostess, the company that makes the food. But yeah, so there, that bullshit. where was I with that? I don't know.
Don't get me started. We'll be here all night.
We'll be here all night. Yeah. So, right. So yeah, this stuff just gets me. I want to share something with I'm ready to talk about it now with my listeners about an incident that happened while I was at Louisville PopCon this summer. That was kind of life changing changing whatever. I don't know how to segue into it, and everybody knows I'm bad at segues, so we'll just go right to it. But I mentioned this to you, but I survived a shooting this summer, which was quite the episode. But I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it on social media. I didn't want to bring light to it because it had nothing to do with PopCon. I picked the wrong place to eat dinner one night. That's literally it. I picked the wrong place to eat dinner. We were so on Friday, the Friday night PopCon, I was me and my friends. I was with producer Brad and his wife Michelle, and one of her friends. They were working the drag show, selling shirts outside the drag show at PopCon. And we were going to eat, and we had Mexican the night before. And where we were at in Louisville, it was literally Mexican restaurants, pizza, Mexican restaurants, and we're like, fuck. And there was a bowling alley next to the convention center or exposition center that we were told had good burgers or something like that, whatever. So we went, and it was a dive, and it was a beautiful little dive. I don't think the burgers were that good, but the place where the dining area we ate was at so you know how bowling alleys always have a hall when you walk in? I don't know why, but they always have this long hall. And to the left of it, when you entered, it was you could see through the bar, through little columns and stuff. It was this place, and it was all wood paneled in there and old looking. And we saw a guy bowling. He had this big chain on. It was an interesting night. And so we're sitting there eating. And then I saw some friends of mine. It was Wolfgar. He's been on the show before. Wolfgar Weapons and Props. He came there, and they went to They were going bowling. And so while we finished, we're sitting there eating, and Brad had gone to the restroom, and then we heard this woman screaming about yelling, and these kids, or we heard these people running by, and we saw them. And then the parking lot, I remember because our table was here, and then there was the window for the front there, and looked out, and there's all these shoes all over the ground. So I assume they were stealing people's shoes, because they were bowling, and some people probably put their money and wallets and stuff and keys in them. And this one guy was getting punched a bunch in the parking lot, and then we see this woman from the bowling alley yelling at people out front, and then Brad came up from the window, and last thing I remember is Michelle Brad's wife going, "What's Brad doing out there?" And then all of a sudden we hear pop, 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 and we I just got down, and you hear shots fired, and the bartender and the air is get over here, get over here. So we were under the bar and bar sludge and shit, and it was it was going on for what felt for fucking ever. And aftermath of it, apparently police found 49 shells from 3 different guns in the parking lot. Yeah. And then one of the people from the bowling alley who was standing next to Brad outside, she got shot in the leg. They pulled her in. And then all the shots stopped or whatever. And then there's little anecdotes that go with this, but I'm going to make the story shorter. But cop came in. It's if you didn't see anything, get the fuck out of here. And I left, went back to my hotel, and apparently, last thing I remember was a cop yelling at Michelle, "Quit stepping in the glass." I was by myself, so I drove back to my hotel. Their friend of Michelle's had a bullet go through her back window, and they were there till 3 or 4 in the morning. And I went back, and it was just weird. I went back, and I saw owner of PopCon, Carl, and he was like, "Well, where have you been?" And I was like, "Oh, dude." And I told him, his face went white. He's like, "Sit down. We're going to have some drinks tonight." And I I was like, can I just call my wife real quick? I thought you should know immediately about this because there were people, there weren't just PopCon people, there were other like vendor people from there. And he's like, all right. And so I called my wife, and then like I had friends and stuff. Like I had my friend Megan was there, which I'd never seen her. I'd see her at conventions, but she was there. And so that was nice. That was like someone I'm like, all right, good friend here to have, like, because I can't have my like wife or anything here. So I'm like, all right. This is nice. And then I like it was crazy because I got put in the celebrity hotel because something or other late edition celebrity hotel. I wasn't with the crew hotel, and so like Cooper Andrews from like Walking Dead, and he's the stepdad on Shazam. He was really cool. Like we chatted. He was like talk through things, and some anime voice actors that I don't watch anime, so I don't know. And stuff, but like, and I was like known as like the shooting kid in the hotel because the next morning when I came down, there's like, hey, he was there. Oh, no. I was like, oh god, but I just compacted it all, and like I'm like, I gotta get the show's gotta go on. I'm fucking stuck in Louisville. I'm gonna do this, get through. And I told Carl, I'm like, I had a great con. I just had one bad night. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was crazy stuff. Like we found out one of the vendors, they sleep in a trailer instead of getting a hotel. They got like set up like a little apartment or something. And one of the bullets whizzed by one of their heads by their beds. Like they kept getting crazier. And the woman who got shot, bullets stuck in her for good. They wouldn't remove it. So yeah, but yeah, that's something that happened to me. So if you want, yeah, that's what a podcaster goes through. Something like that. But I thought I should share it with my listeners because it's a crazy story. And Carl said, look, he's like, you might have some material for your show. I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about it yet. So thought I'd share it now. But
gotta be ready to share those types of things.
Yeah. It took me a while to get, like, I did not leave my basement on 4th of July.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this was at the end of June when PopCon was. Toward middle of June. I'm like, I was not going anywhere 4th of July. Baseball game I went to this summer. I was like, well, as long as it's not Friday night when they do the fireworks. Sorry. Just kind of wild, like hearing things like it was strange. Like, and it was like just this surreal memory that kept coming through my brain and talking about, or like, it was weird. And I'll tell you what, like at no point did I ever feel that if I myself owned a gun, that I would feel any safer or that situation would have been any better. So I can't go with the good guy with a gun thing because I feel like a good guy might have made worse because there was enough ricochet going on. So at my hotel, which was near the bowling alley, they thought a firecracker got thrown at him, but it was a ricochet of the bullet.
Wow.
That went that far and stuff. So I just was like, it was nuts.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's weird because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I would sit there and I would have like, just like it took me a while to really not think about it. So like for like weeks, every second of the day was thinking about it. It was wild.
Yeah.
So.
And stop me if you don't want to, but that's actually, so that's a lot of the work because I went through not quite a similar situation, but some traumatic situations and how the brain responds to that and how your nervous system responds to that and how we end up like continually traumatizing ourselves. Right. And some of it happens automatically. And then we keep telling the story and we keep telling the story and we keep telling the story and we're reliving it.
Yeah.
And so there's this, I went through this and I now take clients through this and I'm sitting here going, Brandon, when can we do this on you? But it's like therapeutic memory reconsolidation where basically you're going back and you're shifting it so that it doesn't have the charge. So next time a firecracker goes off, you don't have the same kind of response, right? Because it is one of those things that it's that moment that gets frozen in your nervous system, right? And it's just, and you don't necessarily realize because cognitively, I think, and I don't know what your experience was, but I think cognitively we go, well, it happened and it's done and I'm fine and whatever. And you keep having all these, whether it's flashbacks or reliving it or these things that you keep looping around and it gets stuck in, frankly, it gets stuck in your nervous system. Yeah. It does take time to unwind. And it's a very real type of thing. And there are a lot of techniques and tools and methods out there that people don't talk enough about to help with that. Right. It's just like, things to help soldiers with PTSD. And it happens. I mean, you had a form of PTSD from that.
Yeah.
It's fucking traumatic.
Yeah. No, it's wild. And granted, I was inside and was going outside, but I didn't know if they were coming back in.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
And you're completely in the uncertainty and the survival, and it's the and to your point, it probably would have made it worse at that point because you don't know. It's so chaotic that it's just your whole entire system goes into what it's supposed to do, which is try and keep you alive.
Yeah.
And then it just playing that out over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild. And then when I got home I got home Sunday night and I saw my kids, it was just over. I was just like, oh my God. Lost. And it was batshit crazy that happened and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about it, like, it's weird. One thing, it was weird. It didn't bother me. Went to see, I believe the Monday after, like, I got back, like, I went and saw The Flash, and that had a lot of gunshots in it. Didn't bug me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, because I was like, that's not what they sound like. Yeah. Just saying. It's not what they sound like. So it didn't bug me.
Right. Because you're like, that's not real.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not what it sounds like. So, but yeah, it was it's wild. And it's weird. Like, it's nuts. Like, yeah, it's with me forever, but it was a tough time for a good few weeks, getting through that, and telling people, like, I told people, but like, I was like, hey, I need to present something to you. I've been in a shoot because I'm like, if I start acting like, if there's people I'm moving around and I start acting fucked up or something, they should know ahead of time that's
right.
That's what's going on. But
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're ready to talk about it because it's not easy to talk about, certainly. But
the kind of trouble your hobby gets you into, right? That's
well, you need to pick a safer hobby.
Safer hobby, yeah. So, but no, and I have to say the people of PopCon stuff were great to me. They were checking in on me the entire, like, it was wonderful. Like, I always have said, like, PopCon's like family, and they like really came through that weekend a lot. Like, it was good. Like, I felt careful. Like, and like some people the next night were like, we're not going anywhere tonight. We're gonna go out. We're gonna grab some takeout, bring it back, and we're just hanging at the hotel. So we did.
That's good.
And it was funny. Like, the second I like Cooper Andrews, he's like, hey, you need to talk about anything tonight? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, if you want to, we can go do that. I'm like, I'm fine, dude. I'm like, I'm just chilling. So, but met a lot of new people. I mean, through that, meeting people who wanted to talk to me because I had been through that and stuff, and shared trauma with some other people I know is a thing. So, but it's kind of, I mean, gotta get through and make the best of at least I had people I know that went through that with me. Yeah, I can always go through with things, and it was weird to watch how differently people reacted to it. Another
very real thing too is that you get to see sort of a raw side of
some people very cold, some cold, like and then there was people that were like me. A lot of us were like me, a bit, and then there was like there's one person who's like, hey, well, we got a crazy story to tell, don't we? I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I'm not there. I hear you.
Everybody processes differently, and
but I'm not that yet. I'm not. And this was on Saturday morning after the and like it's like no. So, but that was a thing that happened to me, my listeners, over sometime it was in mid to late June. So
that's not that long ago. Yeah. I liked how you buried the lead in about this podcast.
Like, here's some stuff that I might have like, what?
Of course, I said yes because I don't care. I'm in. We'll do it. And BT Dubs, I want to talk about this thing. And I was like, you want me to bury the lead, man?
Yeah. I know. I think I almost told you like right after it happened, but I think I was just like, I don't know. I paused on telling people for a bit. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm getting tired of telling this. Like, it was kind of, but I was reach out to you, but I'm like, I think it was just like, I know she's going to talk about this longer than 2 seconds. So,
Hey, I respect boundaries. You tell me you only want to talk 2 seconds, we'll only talk 2 seconds.
Gotcha. But I saved it for here. There you go.
Did.
For everybody to hear us talk. For everybody.
See, my experience with that was I just dealt with it by completely ignoring the fact that I went to the I'm totally fine, and then I went to finally talk to a therapist, and I was like, I'm fine. And she's like, the fact we need to talk about the fact that you think you're fine. And I was like, it's fine. And she's like, you've been through something traumatic. I was like, it wasn't traumatic. She's like, we need to talk about the fact that you don't think it was traumatic.
Yeah. Here's how there's some things you should be feeling, or
like,
thoughts you should be having.
I'm fine. I'm over it. I'm fine. She's like, you are not fine.
Well, there's the desire to like buck up and move on that many of us have. Like, suck it up, move on. And I have that in myself too, but this was one thing that actually stopped.
And this is the work that I have gotten into in the last few years, and I get deeper and deeper into it, is we as humans underestimate our nervous system. And that was what happened to me. And that's one of the reasons I get so passionate about it, is because we don't think about, we have the, it's the executive order brain functioning, right? Like, it's okay, I'll push through, I'm fine, positive attitude, whatever we need to do, which is a wonderful quality. And we need to balance it by supporting our nervous system back into balance, because our entire society throws our nervous systems out of whack anyway, right? So then you take an event like that, and it just that's the part where we don't realize there are things that need to come back into balance, and that there are ways to do it, but we just don't talk about it enough. Right. And so that's the part where, yes, you can continue on and doing some of the work with different tools. And my philosophy is always, we got to have things that are fast and effective and actually work. Ain't nobody got time to sit in therapy for 4 years and talk through this. And I mean that with all due respect to therapy, because I think there's a time and a place for it. And I also think there are ways that we can move through these things much quicker that we're not talking about nearly enough. Right.
Gotcha.
Like giving people tools to, I'm already sitting here going, when we're done with this, I'm going to talk to you about some tools you can use.
There we go. Get your pad out, Brandon. Got a pen? Could be writing. I don't have anything to write with, though. You're on a computer. You have something to write with.
But it really, we underestimate the role that our nervous system plays, because I always say we're just monkeys with iPhones. Just because we have, all this technology and everything, our system's still operating with, million-year-old programming. And it was responding to a threat, and it's not able to process it in the way that it would if, it's like, I always say, like, when my dog walks into walls, because he's like me, but he walks into walls and he shakes himself off. Like, it's what animals do, because they're clearing the adrenaline and everything out of their nervous system. We don't automatically do those things. Anyway, that's a whole soapbox, but.
Gotcha. Fair enough. But for those, I had ideas, like, I just kind of shut down, like, creatively for a bit, like, right after that too. Like, it was weird, because I left thinking I had, and I was going to do, and all this stuff, and I needed to just pause. Like, that's like, I don't think I recorded for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I think I did minimal stuff for a bit, because I was like, I'm relaxing here.
Which was wise of you to listen and do that.
Yeah. Which is hard for me sometimes, but I did. Yeah. So that's what I did for a bit. Got off track with where I was headed, but probably for the better. And then I came up and did the next PopCon at the end of August, and that was an even bigger success. And I'm just like with stuff, too much stuff, but like I'm just that show. So the one show was quite a bang, but the other one provided me, like, I feel confident moving forward on some things I might have been, some decisions I'll be making in the future that I was hesitant on making before. But feel confident about making them now, and feel confident about some future endeavors and altering course to model with what I'm doing outside of the show now and stuff like that. So I feel in a much better place of doing that. And I've got a lot of new relationships with people I'd like to collaborate with more. And that's one thing too. Like I talk about, like there's all these people that like, it's weird because when I see something like there's people that like, oh, celebrity blah blah with this, celebrity stuff. And I live in Los Angeles to the point where like it was not normal, but you had this unwritten rule of like, just don't bug them.
Yeah.
And then I'm at these conventions and stuff where you're supposed to bug them and things like that. But like, I more look at it like I want not just like, it's not like I want to just like a picture with them. I want to collaborate with them.
Right.
Like, I don't want like just to say I'd been there or look, or I asked this one, like I want to do creative stuff with them. Like that's my desire with that. And that's why it's not everybody's for me, or there's some people like if it's interview wise, if I've watched a DVD or Blu-ray where I've seen all the questions I think I would ask or I think people would be interested in asking, I don't reach out. I don't like the greatest hits thing. Mm-hmm. I always pride myself on when I interviewed Linnea Quigley many, many years ago on my old show, like I got her to talk about how she was almost in the movie Reservoir Dogs. But it wound up her part got written out, but she was involved in it in the early stages, and got off the air. She goes, "I've never talked about that. Where'd you find where'd you see that?" She's like, "No one's ever asked me about that. You got a lot out of me tonight that I don't talk about." And then like I was like, "That's what I do. Like if I've heard it, I'm already not interested." So, but yeah. That's where I feel like that's why I like doing the convention. Like I like to be like I've told people the show. Like going to the convention isn't like enough for me. Like I like to be part of the show. I want to help make the show. Like I don't want to be going to the show. I want to help make the show.
Right.
That's what I like doing when it comes to conventions. When it comes to like movie night things like that. Like I do enjoy going to them, but I get more out of putting it on. Like which comes with more work than just attending. But I like the joy of watching people,
and you're creating an experience.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I want to make something that I like and share what I like with people in a way that I would like it, and see if they like it too. Like that's where my mentality comes from. But yeah, it's different for me the way I see it with things. But
yeah, sounds like you got clarity.
Yeah. Got some clarity, yeah.
I mean, that one of the gifts of this year with all the ups and downs was clarity.
Mm-hmm. And for my listeners, I know I saw my old show was kaput after the 3 years, but like this one is just still a nonstop, ever-changing thing and blah, 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 like that. And there's a lot of things. Like I'm having to restrain it. Like there's my old space shows segment, which I put on hold for a bit. I don't want to call it dead in the water ever, anything like that, but like I don't have the time. Like that's just it. Like I love recording with Tony Schaub. I brought him on to summer of '93 so we could record some more. I like doing that show with him. And other guests have been on that one too. But he's like my constant with it right now. But like it's hard to do. And also like my first co-host of that passed away while I was recording and stuff, so that always is like a heavy weight on that too. But he loved the concept of Old Space Show and stuff, Jim Dietz. But like it's not that's Wham and stuff, and I feel like I should keep it around, like almost like in his memory being on the show. But like it's hard, it's a lot, because that's going through with somebody and talking about every episode of a season of a old television show when they were like 20 to 22 episodes, and then mix with my recordings and all this and my reviews. Because like when I do a Blu-ray review, it doesn't appear out of thin air. I gotta watch the movie, which is 2 hours. Right. I gotta watch bonus features, which could be up to.
There's a lot of time that goes into it, but you're doing justice to it. And so
gotta do all this. But then I get called a hack about it too. I'm like, what? Like all this stuff. So people are like, oh, jealousy gets the free ones. I'm like, it's. At the end of the day, it's probably easier to just flip a 20 and buy it for put all the work I do into it. Like, come on. And yeah, so it's crazy. And then put all the work. So I'm just trying to focus, and it's kind of weird. And if listeners have noticed with my show, it's the format's changed, because it used to be guest movie music video at the end of the week, all that stuff. But it's kind of changed. It's become much more focused studies because like I feel like the first couple of years, inadvertently, I was like casting the show. So I was having like auditions. And there's people I've asked back that have wanted to, but not. Like, it's been hard to schedule. And there's been a good consistent group of y'all that have now come back. So I feel like you're more like the cast of the show now. That's my with the guests and stuff. But like, I like doing focused things with Scott. Scott and I have really connected here. We started with the summer of 82 at 40. Then we did our Tim Burton thing in the fall because he liked doing summer of 82. We did 93 this year, and that was a blast. Aaron came on. He liked doing it. It was a blast. And all you that come and do the music videos too, that's so much fun. I love that. That's why I love that series, but that series is a lot of work. Like, I don't think, like, we start, like, I've already planned out the next one, but like, we start recording in like January for something that doesn't come out till May and drop. And it's like each episode has like 3 to 5 movies to research, talk about. I research like news articles, ratings for things, like all sorts of shit. It's a big planned show and I love it, but it takes a lot out of me. So in the early parts of the year, it's hard for me to do dual duty because I'm recording that and the current episodes of the show at the same time. And then you wanting an old space show in there too. That's tough. It's hard. And writing Blu-ray reviews and all that shit and being, wait, family, job, husband, pets.
Right.
It's extended family. Like,
and by the way, sleeping and,
I do that sometimes. But yeah, these are the things I don't think people recognize that some of us out there do. And I think there's a perception that because they see somebody, the written articles or something, that's what they're doing for a living. And I'll tell you the dirty secret is most of us are not.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't. Like, I see people just because they got an article in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety. No, they probably got like a nice little not under the table, it probably is official check, but it's like a gig to gig thing. And I have friends that are straining, doing gig to gig to gig to gig. They don't have health insurance because they're doing gig writing. I have some friends that have been like editors on places, so they have a salary job with things. But there's a lot of them that they get a piece and they get paid whatever that site can afford. That's not their job. And a lot of them, and they bitch and complain, they're writing like 1 article a month. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, fuck you. Sorry. But with what I'm doing and stuff like that, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm the hardest working podcaster I probably am one of them. And I'll toot my horn there, but yeah. And I see people like, that's why I was talking about to the top where I was like, oh, pay me to write this. And I'm like, what the fuck, write it. But like a lot of them are struggling and that's not their job. And a lot of them tweet a fucking lot. So you think they're doing something, but that doesn't, X a lot or post a lot. So you think they're doing, but they're not. Just realize they're working too. And there's a guy named, he shares my first name. I think his last name's Strasberg. And the best thing I've enjoyed about him, while I don't agree with his movie opinions all the time or anything, he's a janitor writing about films. Sometimes he gets bylines in places and stuff like that, but he's a janitor by day. And then people throw that in his fucking face. Like if they disagree with a movie opinion, it's like, dude's got health insurance, dude gets a solid gig. He enjoys what he's doing for one. He said he doesn't mind the gig. And like, why do we judge a person and this is someone once told me in the United States, we tend to judge people by where they work. Like that's not who they are. This is where they're making money. And
this is one of those things that ultimately the answer is that we as individuals have to be strong enough in what we're doing not to really give a fuck what other people say or think about it because they're going to have their opinions and it's really nobody else's business. But again, that's a whole other TED talk. But really it's this thing of people will feel shame about, oh, I'm doing this and I'm building my business or I'm working on this thing. And it's like, listen, if your passion project that you want to eventually have be your full-time income, why don't you not put so much pressure on it to support you? And there's absolutely no shame in having something to pay your damn bills in the meantime. Now, does it mean that you're going to make some choices with your time? yeah, you're going to make some choices with your time. But guess what? You're not going to be so fucking stressed about where your paycheck is coming from that it's going to choke the life out of the creative endeavor. Now,
Right.
there are some people, there is a percentage of people that are positively motivated by that, right? They will work harder, that stress, the lack of income will motivate them in a good way. I do not believe that is the bulk of the population. I believe the bulk of the population, everybody has money stories to work on. Most people get so stuck in scarcity, desperation, and all these other things that you can't, from that place, you can't create.
Yeah.
You're not doing a service to anybody that you're creating from, in my opinion, if you're in a place of worrying about where the hell your next meal is coming from. You have to have your energetics and your everything really freaking balanced to be able to still do that and do that well. And just people don't. And so it's choices, right? People ask me that all the time. I'm like, well, I make choices. I don't have much of a social life, right? And I'm okay with that because I would rather look back when I, am changing the world on a broad scale and go, yeah, I'm glad I did it that way. Because guess what? I could still pay my mortgage while I was billing it. And I wasn't so desperate that I took on people I didn't want to work with or took on projects I didn't want to do just because I was paying my bills. Right? There's no shame in it. It doesn't make anybody it doesn't make you less of a podcaster or less of a like just because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm a badass fucking coach. And it doesn't matter what I do with my time. It's just none of it matters. And people get so hung up on that. And it's like, get over yourself. And I'm sorry, but if you're out there judging somebody that's doing that, show me your podcast, show me your business, show me your creative endeavor. If you've got some skin in the game, maybe we could talk about best practices, but otherwise, shut your face.
Yep.
Mic drop.
For those of you listening to the audio version, I dropped the mic. Wow. But that was good. That was good. But that's how I feel. So when you're, I don't know, watching The Office for the 80th time, I'm probably working on stuff like this.
Yeah. And you know what? If you're watching The Office for the 80th time, good on you. But don't be out there criticizing other people. You, whatever makes you happy. I'm a big believer in that, right? Sovereign. Yeah. But if you're out there doing, don't pretty much as a general rule, stay in your own lane and leave everybody else alone. It's just kind of a good rule of life.
Yeah. These things. And these things that you see, these people, they don't pop up out of thin air. Whether you agree with what was written, recorded, or like that person who's like, they spent time, like they sacrificed, they put something, and they got it done. What were you doing? And it's
not easy.
And I've always found this weird, and you probably, this relatable thing when you're doing creative endeavors. Now, you don't need the world behind you, but it's so weird, the way support comes from those you know. Yeah. It's so weird that someone might say something like, you never click like on it. That, I know I was the guy who said, I never say click like and subscribe, but I also see enthusiasm for things I do, or just not you post lots of it. I try to click.
I know, I appreciate it. Thank you.
any of my guests on my shows and stuff, I try my best to show my support for them. They gave me their time. They regularly give me their time, stuff like that. I try to their post, shares, do what I can. Even just the act of just clicking a like. I don't think people know that to the creator and stuff. That means a lot. And then it's family. Do you not it's he's doing that. Do they want me to succeed at it, or is there this bitterness of he's doing that thing? Because a lot of my support comes from not people. I will say, since I started the Brandon Peters show, I get asked about it a lot more than my old show. I get people talk about it. People seem to be it's more visible. Granted, I've been a lot more active because I'm a one-man show here, and I control all my media outlets and want people it's not like it was with the other show where I had issues with those things. But but that's been better, but it still could be a lot better. It's weird, like that they don't have to show support, or like I guess you don't like listening. Like maybe you don't like or understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes may get a little deep, but like, yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird because you think like, oh, I got all these friends and family, and they don't do anything.
Kat. It's interesting where also the people that are like I said, that never, I discovered this when I started my podcast, and I was just putting my podcast out. I'm just doing it. And I haven't lived in the town I went to high school in forever. And one of my best friends was like, oh, I ran into so-and-so, who was somebody that was somewhere in the periphery of my high school that I sort of knew.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, Jen Wreyford's got a podcast. I'm like, the fuck did he find this?
Yeah.
These people that I run into will stop me and will say things like, oh, I watch all your reels, or I do this. I'm like, I didn't even know we were still connected on Facebook, but that's
damn.
And, I think a lot of people come up against, I will say I have been extremely blessed. My parents, my dad's always like the first one to like my stuff. He
follows the Brandon Peters show and stuff. Yeah. Thank you.
Been incredibly supportive, and I mean my mom too, but my dad's he likes my stuff and shares my stuff, and it really means a lot. And I also know that not everybody has that kind of support from their parents, right? And I work with a lot of clients who are going up against wanting to do something and not having that type of support. And I think sometimes it's people don't always understand what it is, and because they don't, sometimes people also aren't curious, or they just they don't even ask, and they don't really know. And I think sometimes they just don't have any concept of it, of what
I think that's where a lot of my thinking I'm a schmuck comes from, going way back, because I mean back in high school, I mean I know, like, to the younger viewers, and I've said this before, I was making movies with my VHS camcorder. I was in theater production. Like I quit football to be in theater. And like I was weird. Like they didn't know how to deal with that back then. They didn't know what that was. It wasn't a real career idea. It was like, and every time, like even with my parents and stuff, like they allowed me to do it, but I don't think they were really bad. They were like, I think they're like hoping I just like wallow in. Even when I lived in LA, they didn't want to hear about the films I worked on or anything. They were like, how's your job? Which my job was doing Blu-rays and DVDs, but it was like they just wanted to hear I was doing fine. They didn't want to hear the details of it because they weren't interested. So, like I'd want to show them my movies I made when I was in high school, and it was kind of like, and like they never went all like movie collecting. That was a bane of their fucking existence. Why you spend all your money on those things like this? And, but like, and it's weird because like I maybe always never felt I was putting out something worthwhile, because if I was putting out something worthwhile, they'd be interested, right? And it was just real weird with things like that, because I was never accepted because I made that stuff. I did hear that at my high school reunion that I didn't go to a couple years ago, that some people were hoping I'd show up because they wanted to talk about it. And I was like, well, too late. You had your chance in the 90s. But like, yeah, it's kind of weird. So I always have this like hesitancy about like how I perceive that someone would be interested in my stuff. And I think it's like, it's probably derived. I've kind of derived from that, though. I think my mom's trying to understand this now.
Yeah.
Late.
Well,
but
but that's the thing. And again, this gets into my wheelhouse for the work that I do, because it's exactly that. And then we form these unconscious decisions about ourselves in those moments. Mm-hmm. That we then carry through. That's an undercurrent. The rest of it doesn't have to be the rest, but through our lives, right? And not realizing that it's still there. Mm-hmm. Of like, oh, this is actually this perception that I have, and this like kind of decision that I made, and we make a meaning of it, when really, ultimately, what's happening is mom and dad were looking at things from a certain lens. All of our parents did the best they could, but like. I don't know. I am not a parent, and God love all of you, because I only have a bonus child, and I like tried to give him a compliment on his eyelashes, and I think instead I gave him a complex. But anyway, I don't know how people parent, but God bless you all. But it's, that people are looking at things through their own wounds, their own like lenses, and they can't quite, they can't get there. And then we internalize that somehow as there's something about us that what we're doing isn't valuable or that we aren't valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And then we carry those stories forward.
Yeah.
And some people let them stop them. Other people don't. But if we, my work is getting in there and cleaning out the stories so that they're just gone.
Right.
But it's a real thing. And, it's doing things that I forget which philosopher it was, but it's basically be content to be thought foolish with whatever, that you're doing, because everybody thought a lot of people were crazy until whatever they did, turned into something really freaking awesome. I'm sure Steve Jobs got some weird looks and now iPhones.
Right. And it's funny. It's not going to stop me ever, because this is just I have to be doing this. It's weird. It's just in me. I can't not be doing, my passion for movies, things like that. Yeah. It's funny. I can't, the art of filmmaking and stuff like that, is just something I adore so much. I like to talk about a lot. And I like the art of podcasting has been a thing that I've really transcended. I've melded the two to where I like, and with my passions and stuff, and been molded me with creativity and blown things open. So that's just who I am. I thought about when I moved here in 2000. It was December of 2008, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to be normal. Just be normal. And I realized that it's not I can't not be this way. It just who.
Man, so not to shine, Brandon.
Yeah, it's just I just have to.
What you do.
Right. No, I'm never gonna back away from it. It's who I am, and it's crazy. I just have to be this way. And I don't mean to sound like a pompous ass. It's just how I am.
But I don't think, in my perception, it's not. It's just an ownership of, this is who I am. This is what I love to do. And, even when you talk about it, it's that's actually what we need more of, is we need people who are embracing that. And it's these are the people who put on these, you put on the popcorn because you care about what you're doing and you want to create an experience. This is the good stuff in life that we need more of.
And I really hope I make the Doctoberfest people happy, because this is our first thing, and I know what they want, but I'm all right, I'm excited, and I'm nervous that I hope I deliver you a product that you want, because it's not exactly what I typically do, but we're gonna work it.
It's your pilot episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be pilot. I was like, we're gonna do this, and we'll know what goes next after that. But it's a different take on what I kind of do. But I'm very looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun. It's a one day, but for me, it's a weekend. Because there's some things on Friday and Sunday morning I gotta do too. But yeah, looking for that. More things here on this show to record. Including I'm itching to get to the summer of 2004 at 20, which you'll be a part of course. I'll be contacting you when we do that next year. What'd you say?
I'll be on.
Yeah, you'll be on that one, of course. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And it's been a wild year from just doing the show, figuring out kind of what I'm liking about it now, having to hang some things up for a sec, or focus other ways and evolve other things, and between having to the highs of PopCon success, other success, doing the Here Now Festival again, do a panel on podcasting for that. That's in Kansas City. I've done virtual twice with it. But it's a lot of fun. Continued relationships with people. And then the lows of, being through a shooting or something. Oh, I also had a person who'd been on the show multiple times that I had to cease collaborations with because of some allegations and activity. And I was advised to just, it sucks, but gotta move on. But yeah, it's had that whirlwind. But year 4, who knows? It's gonna be fun. I know what's in store. Next month, it's gonna have some horror stuff to go along with Out Now with Their Name. Like I said, go to that one because that's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. Good things. And that Out Now with Aaron Abe that I always talk about, that's where my podcasting started, and I will always call it home and go back to it and consider the Brandon Peters Show part of the Out Now with Aaron and Abe universe, is what we like to call it, with everybody that is around with it. But yeah, is this good wrapping up point, or is there more you want to do?
I think it's good if you're good with it.
I'm Jennifer. I go to bed way earlier than everyone else.
At 8:30, that's all right.
I go to bed way earlier. So, okay. So I hope, listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. I just wanted to open myself up here, just get some things just out of my head into Jennifer's, mixed around and spit back at me with advice, things like that, some feed bounce back and stuff. So did you like this episode? Was it something to kick off your foreign style with? I don't know. Let me know about this one. And thank you, Jennifer, for sitting in for this, and maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll catch up and see, like, take my temperature at some point or something like that if people like it.
Yeah, I like that you're just like, hey, I've got this idea, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I was like, I didn't even know what we were doing. I'm like, no, I'm in. We'll do it.
No, anytime I'm like, hey, you want? Yes. I was like, all right, that's pretty much that's how you work. That's how we operate, and I like it. But yeah, so where can people keep up with you if they liked hearing this?
They liked hearing this. Well, I have it?
I'm selling you the best I've ever had this episode, I think.
I redid my website this year. I have a new program that I'm launching. I have a bunch of free stuff that I'm doing. I have some free, some of the tools I talked about earlier. I'm actually doing a free training on that, and a couple free masterclasses I have coming up. But couragetorise.com is the website, and you can find me on Instagram. I am Jennifer Wreyford, and my program that I'm coming out with is called Unfuckwithable.
Yes, there we go. Perfect.
Because we need more of that. So
I like it. You're like, Mary, you tell me you just like me because I have a bad mouth, or I use the F word off.
If you bring me on, I'm gonna cuss. Oh, the other thing I did, I should have had a copy of. I've created journals, a bunch of blank journals that I'm selling.
Okay.
That I had to put 500 of them in my house somewhere, so that was a lot of fun. They arrived while I was out of town, so my boyfriend and his son brought them inside. God bless them. But
oh, there we go. Awesome.
From the website, you can link out to the journals and stuff.
Sweet. Excellent. Okay. Well, again, many thanks here. I'm, of course, I'm on X and Instagram at Brandon4KHD. I know people have like, oh, I left X and I'm on this one that nobody is at because they went to this one. And it's like, it sucked before. Let's be honest.
I was never on Twitter before. I technically have a Threads account, but whatever.
It sucked before. But I'm on Instagram, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
At Brandon4KUHD. Written work is at Why So Blue. You can find out all things live podcast stage and podcast awards at popcon.us. Click for the Louisville show, which will be coming back there in June next year, as well as April for Indianapolis, which is going to be an exciting one. We have championship darts coming to PopCon in April. And I went to an event for that recently, and let me tell you, it's going to be fun. Okay, coming up on the show next week, Jamie Alvey returns. We're going to talk about her movie Bystanders, which, if you've been listening to the Brandon Peters Show, that went from her pipe dream, her little script that she'd been working on so hard to, I believe, being produced by Dread Central, which will be released, I don't know, but she'll tell us. It's been shot. She got to star in it, too. Pretty exciting. I'm very excited to talk to her about that. And we'll be discussing the film Series 7, a personal favorite cult classic of mine. That's all next week. Till then, thank you, Jennifer, and all of you out there, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.